at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Toss to White. He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl!
Welcome to Patriots Touchback Podcast.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to a brand new edition here of the Patriots Touchback Podcast. We are in Season 2. This is Episode 2. Me, your host, Carl. I am back again doing my hosting duties, so I wasn't here last week. Joining as ever, we've got our main comrades, Nick Cosgrove, Luke O'Brien, and DJ Ferrero. Gentlemen, I hope you are doing well.
All good?
All good, mate.
Yeah, all good.
Yep. Also, for the first time, I get the opportunity to welcome our two new recruits to the Patriots Touchback Podcast, John Dudley and, of course, Kieran Stadley. Good evening, gentlemen. I hope you are well. How's your week been?
Johnny's on mute.
Johnny's on mute.
My apologies. Yeah, now I'm excited to get going.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Really enjoyed last week, and looking forward to being here with all six of us tonight.
Absolutely, the whole crew is here with us. With the draft now literally coming up to 9 days away, it's best to get on with what players that the Patriots could do with regarding of the positional needs. So, listen. The quarterback conversation has been beaten to death, and we're going to beat it to death a little bit more. We're sitting at pick number 3. Drake Mason possibly taken. Jaden Daniels possibly taken. JJ McCarthy, even though it makes my blood boil, could be taken in that position as well. I'm just going to go around the horn and just what everyone's aspects are for the positional needs. I mean, is it quarterback? Is it receiver? For me personally, the offense in its entirety is an absolute joke, and we need more talent on the offensive side of the ball, but there's a lot of holes to fill. Kieran, we're going to start off with you. The positional need, is it quarterback, or do you build from the outside in? Because there is a saying that if you don't take a quarterback now, when will you?
Yeah, well, as I said last week, I think it's imperative that we do take the quarterback at number 3. And as I said before, I'm very much in the Drake May camp. I think all of us will be in agreement that the 3 biggest priority positions are QB, wide receiver, and offensive tackle. But equally, I think there are other positions, even on the defensive side of the ball, where we're strong. We probably still need a second corner. We could probably do with another edge rusher, and maybe some more depth on the D-line. I think probably linebacker is the only real position we're absolutely stacked at, and maybe safety too. But yeah, those 3 offensive premium positions are where we need to attack with those first 3 picks, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Nick, what about you? Because you and me have gone backwards and forwards with the argument of take the quarterback, no, trade down. You will say build it from the outside in. I say build it from the inside out. So talk to me. What... the positional needs is all over the place with the offense, but what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, Kieran just hit it on the head. You know, we've got so many needs across that front line. We watched last year as we suffered tackle injury after tackle injury. You know, we lost Connor McDermott. We lost, and we lost Riley Reef, and we ended up with an offensive line that couldn't block and couldn't hold the defensive edge of the opposition, and we need a tackle, we need a guard. I don't know how long David Andrews is good. I reckon this is probably David Andrews' last year. Is Jake Andrews good enough? Don't know. So you might need a centre next year. That whole line needs 2 years at least, if not 3 years of investment. Not to mention, you've got a poor wide receiver room. That needs investment from the poor. I mean, I said this the other week. We are paying for years of just inept drafting, and it is going to take a long time to do. So there are so many needs, and you can only fill so many at once. But I know that I'm an outside-in guy, and I know you're an inside-out guy, and that's fine. I don't think there's a right answer, and I don't think there's a wrong answer. The problem is, from my point of view, what is the point in putting a QB behind a line that we know can't do the job already, and you're just going to let him get battered week after week? How does that help with a premium QB? At least get a better line in front of him and then go. That's where I've always been.
Okay,
I'm
Johnny?
inclined to agree. So I read your mind.
Go on, Johnny.
I'm inclined to agree with Nick there. I think in the sense that not even just necessarily from the putting someone behind the line and getting battered. I think if we pick someone like, I am concerned about that if we get Jaden Daniels, because I think as an LSU fan watching Jaden Daniels, he's a very slight guy. And I think one of the things that very much concerns me about his game film, and I loved watching him last year, I say as an LSU fan, is that guy does not have. Russell Wilson is excellent at when he runs, at knowing when to slide. Jaden Daniels does not have that innate ability. That guy, every time he runs the ball down the middle, it looks like a car crash. And we wait with bated breath as an LSU fan, thinking, please get up, please get up. I'm concerned if he's behind the Patriots offensive line, because while he's mobile, he's not particularly great at manipulating the pocket. Drake May, I'm a little less worried about. I think he's got quite good pocket movement, and I think he's a bigger dude who can take the punishment. But my main concern is if we draft a QB and then build over the next couple of years a roster around him, are we wasting the biggest cheat code in the NFL, which I mentioned last week a few times, is the rookie wage scale for a QB. I think that's the primary point at which you need to build around a QB. And I think that I also think Drake May would probably benefit from sitting a year. He's only 21. Yeah. He's not got a ton of experience. I think, to be honest with you, Jacoby Brissett in Alex Van Pelt's system in Cleveland was a really highly rated QB in the PFF. He had like an 83, 84 grade last year, which is impressive. And I'd be happy to sit with Jacoby Brissett, have another subparish season, and then build around Drake May or a QB in the future.
You make a good point there, Johnny. Are we seriously going to take a QB at 3 and then sit him for a year, which is effectively a waste of a pick that we can't afford to waste? I get that he won't be ready to start week 1. If you draft Drake May, he's not ready week 1. At best he's going to be ready halfway through the season. Why are we wasting a pick on someone who's not going to play? We do not have that luxury.
I think there's very little expectation going into next season anyway. So I don't think it necessarily does any harm to sit him. I think if Jacoby Brissett comes in and plays half of the season or 75% of the season, and we've got a bad record, we've got the heir apparent in waiting, and then you're potentially going to be in line for a high draft pick next year. So I don't necessarily think it's the worst thing in the world when we're going to go into this season, as you said, with plenty of holes. And we're not going to make the playoffs this year, I don't think. So what are we actually losing? What we could risk is ended up being in no man's land come the draft next year.
Yep, absolutely.
Luke, what about you, mate?
Yeah, I know I've voiced my opinion to you and our WhatsApp group a few times. I'll just say this, and this is one of my main reasons for wanting to take the QB this year, is that like if you could go and you could push you could fill a lot of the needs. I agree by trading back or taking a tackle, and like I agree with Nick and what he's saying, and also what Johnny's saying in terms of like there's definite pros to trading back. Don't get me wrong, but I think that at the moment, I think trading back and not taking a QB now. Not taking QB. If you're the Patriots and you think that Drake May isn't the answer and we're taking QB because we need a QB, then don't take it. Trade back, right? But if they love Drake May and I'm saying Drake May now just purely because I think Daniels is going to Washington, so it's not saying that I don't want Daniels or anything like that. It's just I think that's what's going to happen. If we don't, God, lost my point, but I'll jump forward with this. If May is the guy, and we're happy to take him, then take him, because we probably won't be in a top 3 or top 4 position or draft pick next year. You also, even if we are in maybe the top 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, there's no guarantee that there's a quarterback even as good as Drake May there, because now I know every year there's a guy who comes out of nowhere, but that might be the only guy, and he'll go 101, and whoever's got the top draft pick is most likely going to need a QB, and they're not going to trade out of it. So any supposition about or future kind of go, well, we'll get all this draft pick haul to trade up, sure, and everybody's going to trade with us. Why would they? If they need a quarterback, that there's no incentive for them to trade, even if we gave them the keys to the franchise. So that would be my feeling on it. I agree with the overall premise of trading back because there's so many holes in the roster, but I think that we're already in the position to take the quarterback. We're in the draft position to take a quarterback. The quarterback is there, a guy that is, whether you're looking at the top 3 guys, I'm not including McCarthy in that, the top 3 guys are there. They're consensus top 3 guys. Take one of them. If we were sitting 4th or 5th or 6th, I would be like, trade back. 100% we can trade. But we're already here. We would be looking to get back up to this spot in a year or 2 or 3 time, and we mightn't be able to. And then you get into we got to pay a veteran now. Now we got to pay, a veteran that's been around the block a bit. Oh, maybe we try develop a guy like Desmond Ridder. Maybe, maybe we try and this 3rd round guy looks pretty promising. Maybe we can develop
Or Spencer
him.
Rattler.
Or you turn into one of those franchises that we laughed at for years that just kept kind of trying to convince themselves that a quarterback was, like a mid-level quarterback could get them to the game, because a mid-level quarterback won't get you anywhere.
I agree. I think if you think that Daniels or May is the guy, and that this is a generational, take him, just take him. But for me, I don't see a huge difference between one of those guys and Penix.
Penix is slightly different. First of all, he's 24 years of age. Secondly, he's got abundance of injuries. He's had 2 ACL surgeries on the same knee. He's had shoulder surgery on his throwing shoulder. And that's why he's a second day. That's why he's a second day prospect, not a first.
I think he'll go higher. I think he doesn't get past the Raiders at 13.
Don't think he gets past the Raiders at 13.
I really don't. I think for my money, watching the QBs in this year's draft, even Caleb Williams outside the pocket is phenomenal, but inside the pocket as a thrower, I don't think there's a better QB in the draft. I think the way he throws the football is phenomenal, and I think a team will fall in love with that. And we had him in for one of our 30 visits this week. So I think
that was earlier on today. That was today.
Yeah.
That was today. Just gone. If you're not watching this, listen to this in the US. Me personally, look, I can see from both sides of the fence here. I can see why we should be taking either a Drake May or Jaden Daniels at 3, and I can see why you would trade back, accumulate picks, and maybe get a mid-round quarterback. But there's no guarantee that Spencer Rattler is going to be that 3rd-round guy who literally elevates himself to the top. And the other quarterbacks further down the board, the likes of Sam Hartman and so on, they're unknown. They're absolutely unknown. What are we trying to do? Look for another Brock Purdy? What are we looking for? Another Tom Brady? That was a 1 in a million chance, or 1 in 199 chance, beg your pardon, if you wanted to get Brady. But for me, you take the position of need, and the position need for me personally, it is the quarterback. And I know the offensive line, as Nick has already said, it wasn't very good last year, but that was at the start when none of our tackles were actually in training. They were still injured. We were mishmashing around with the new prospects. Once the likes of Onwenu and Sidi So had come back, and obviously Trent Brown had he was our best tackle. He had an 80.3 PFF grade, if I don't believe. He was our best tackle. And to the back end of the season, that offensive line was starting to shore itself up a little bit. Sidi So was actually one of the top 10 guards in the NFL. So there was promise there. And you are
because they didn't want to protect Mac.
I just think they're not that talented, DJ. I don't think it's that deep.
I think they can't be that cynical.
I also don't think Mac helped.
But we could pick up a second round on a second day in the second round. We can get a decent offensive lineman.
Yep.
I just want to add to that as well. I'm just looking at this now about remaining free agents on the offensive line. And there are still some guys out there in free agency, and the second wave will hit after the draft. There's some guys on there that could come in and do a job. So, yes, I'd expect us to add to it in the draft. But, offensive tackle, I don't think Bakhtiari is going to be anything like he used to be, but I think he'd still be an upgrade. Even guys like DJ Humphreys and Donovan Smith, that they're on the older side, but they'd be better than what we've already got.
100%.
I'd take a stab in the dark at Mekhi Becton just because of the age. Like, that guy's still 24 years old.
Has he ever been healthy in any season he's played in the NFL?
That's the thing. He's been massively injury prone, but that's what I mean. He's a young guy, and if he can turn that round, then there's still potential there. And then just looking at the guards, you got like Andres Pete, Hal Vaitai, Dalton Reisner. Like, they're all mediocre, but like they'd be fine. Like, it'd be better than sticking in some 6th round rookie. So look, we may add to it in the draft. We may draft a tackle in round 2 or round 3. We might add a guard in round 5 or whatever. But there's still some options
training
out
camp
there.
Cuts as well. There's always someone will come available.
One thing I want to add on top of what Kieran's saying there as well, and made a very good point. And Kieran, I want to hear you pronounce Hal Vaitai's first name there in full there in a second, please.
Okay.
If we're looking at the offensive line for next year, we look at last year and we go, it wasn't good. As an overall level, I think, like as Cara was saying, we were progressing a bit better towards the end. But whether we address the offensive line or not, it's going to be Onwenu, it's going to be Sidi So, it's going to be Dave Andrews. There's going to be our right side line. Left guard, I think, will probably be a bit of a job somebody could win, but Cole Strange is probably going to be the incumbent starter. Whether he actually stays there or not is another question. You're really your only hole, and you could say all 4 of those other guys are terrible and we need to get rid of them, right? But realistically, we're not. If you think that all 4 of those guys are terrible, we need to get rid of them. But realistically, they're going to be your starters, and they're going to be your starters going forward. And then you do have an opening at left tackle, which you have round 2, round 3 to address. Now, I don't think the tackle depth is there beyond round 3, and a lot of it is
developed. We get a Steelers guy.
Mental. We got our 4-4, but he's played right tackle most of his career, and he's more of a people are saying he's a swing tackle, but he's actually I think he's only played right tackle. Now I'm open to correction on that. Somebody tell me I'm wrong there. But so your only starting hole that you need to address is left tackle. And as Kieran was saying, you pick up Donovan Smith, you pick up DJ Humphreys. I'd be less inclined on Bakhtiari because of his knee problems. And I think if you're going to get a guy, I think outrageously talented like Bakhtiari, but if you want somebody there to be a stopgap for you don't want him sitting on the injury table. So you get one of those guys. And if you say, do you know what, in the second round, there's nobody there, like take a receiver, we go get Donovan Smith or we go get DJ Humphreys, who are perfectly 20 to 25 best left tackles in the NFL at this stage of their careers. They're not going to be amazing. They're going to give up sacks, but they're going to be relatively solid. And then you go address left tackle next year. Because chances are you're going to be hopefully picking 6 to 10 next year. And there you could get the top 1 or 2 tackles. And I think that's obviously blue sky thinking that's what I would like to happen. And I'll see you later. That's all I got.
Okay, DJ, you're last up. What about you?
Yeah, I'm in the QB boat. Unfortunately, I do get where Nick's coming from, and I do get the talk of in the Patriots Nation where we've got too many holes to fill. But I think we're in a top 3 pick here. I really do think it's stupid of us to trade back and not have our quarterback for the next 12 to 15 years. And I'm all for, if we have to sit him a year, we sit him a year and we rebuild that offensive line for him for the next year. If we are to be picking in the next 10 next year, so be it. We'll probably pick up an offensive line then, top 10 tier. My only concern is the weapon side of things. It's not like our wide receiver core is probably one of the poorest in the NFL at the moment. And that does need a lot of work on. If it means us trading for Higgins or Brandon Ayuk, then I think we should be reaching for those guys and going out and making that trade happen. But I do get the sense of feel we need to see who's there in rounds 2, 3, and 4. Wide receiver. It's a very deep draft for the wide receiver core. So yeah, I say I'm up for maybe just picking 2 wide receivers in this draft. Easy.
Can I throw another name in there as well? I've seen today that there's been a bit of talk in Denver about Cortland Sutton, and
contract issues.
Rumors he might be attainable for a 5th round pick. Now that seems really cheap for a guy that has actually had a fair amount of production. Would you call him an elite receiver? No, he's not an absolute surefire wide receiver 1, but that would be a cheap upgrade, I think, for our offense if we wanted to say prioritize a tackle in round 2, take a receiver in the 3rd or 4th, and then you still have Sutton for a late round pick or a pick swap or whatever. We've got the cap space to accommodate the contract, and it just got me thinking, like, if we could get him for a 5th or a 6th, I think that'd be a bit of a steal.
Yeah.
I can understand where you're coming from in that, but the problem is though, New England don't have a number 1 receiver. We have lots of 2s, lots of 3s, and lots of 4s. We don't have a bona fide number 1 receiver. We've been having this argument for probably since Randy Moss was here. We haven't really had
number 1 though. Sutton, he's a low end number 1, but he's still a number 1 in the league. He's an X as well. Which is something.
He's an X receiver.
We have a lot of slot guys and speed guys, but he's your Devontae Parker replacement. He's a better version of Devontae Parker. So yeah, I would be for that.
Thing to remember with Sutton as well is right at the end of the season he suffered an ankle injury, so he's gone and had surgery on that. So he's not taking part in any of Denver's off-season workouts because he's still recovering from this ankle surgery he had. We don't know what state that ankle is in. We don't know whether the surgery has been successful. So, and even if it has, you don't know what his comeback is going to be like. So I get the point, but again, that's a risk. That's a risk you're taking. And one of the reasons he's unhappy is he wants a contract. You're not going to bring him in and not give him a contract, because he's not going to go anywhere that won't give him a contract as soon as he goes in the door. So then you're saying, right, okay, am I going to give a contract to a guy who is at the bottom end of number 1 and has an ankle injury that we don't know how it's recovered and healed? So Cortland Sutton in particular would be a very, very big risk that I wouldn't want to take.
Beggars can't be choosers, though. I think, and with our current position, wide receiver, the core itself, I don't think we're in a position we can be that fussy. I think if you're telling me a 5th round pick, who's probably most of the time isn't going to be on the roster by the start of the season anyway, I'm chucking a 5th round pick to Denver and saying, let's take a chance on Cortland Sutton, a guy I know can play in the NFL, as opposed to taking a 5th round pick on somebody that maybe or maybe can't.
The problem with that is that I think I recall back, it was a fair few years ago, I think Leonard Fournette, he running back. He obviously he went down for an injury in the season, and the Jags tried to flip him. I can't remember what draft it was for a day 3 pick. No one bit. no one bit. So in the end, they just let his contract expire and they released him. I personally feel like what we need to do in this draft is, with devoid of talent, we have messed up the receiver position in the draft for God knows how many years. This should be the year where our crop right now isn't that great. Demario Douglas has promise. Kendrick Bourne is a grafter. We know what he brings. KJ Osborne, he's a wide receiver 3 from Minnesota, but he does block well in the offensive line. He's an overall receiver, and I do like the type of guy. But apart from that, nothing screams at me, yeah, you're not scaring us. Juju Smith-Schuster, bin. Keishon Butte, unless he gets his head out of his backside and gets rid of his problems, it's no good. So I look at the receiver core is so deep, you bring in at least 2 or 3 receivers out of this draft and you actually challenge them, because we need to see now if our GM and our scouting staff can actually scout talent. We need to start scouting talent. And that leads me on really nicely to players that you absolutely love and want in this side, and ones you absolutely loathe and you don't want in this team. So we're gonna go the other way this time. So DJ, we'll start with you. Excluding the quarterback, obviously, which player you really, really want in this draft class? Doesn't matter. It could be any position.
There's so many. If I really have to pick one, it depends if he's going to be there on the board or not at the second round pick. I really do love Brian Thomas from LSU, wide receiver. He could fall in the second round. Depends if he's going to be board at that time or not. The other lad, if not, is that Keon Coleman from Florida State.
No, me and Luke are shaking our heads because I know what's coming into both our heads here, don't we, Luke? N'Keal Harry 2.0. Yeah,
I don't know.
Exactly. I just watched his tape. Okay. What about what player you don't want? Which one you say that a lot of experts are saying this guy's really good, but you look at those, he won't just fit. He won't fit the mold of this team.
I'm gonna go JJ McCarthy. I just don't want him. I don't think he'll be a good fit. I think Patriots would be making a mistake here if they do go and draft JJ McCarthy at 3.
Okay, Luke.
Yep. So the player I have is Cam Kitchens from Miami. I think he had a terrible combine, but that just makes him slide down the draft board. I think he's kind of, from what I've heard anyway, I won't sit here and pretend that I've watched all the safeties top to bottom, but a lot of the safeties in the draft are box safeties. Kitchens is a proper free safety. We have some good safeties on the team, but Duggar and Peppers are better off being strong safeties. I think Kitchens is your kind of sideline to sideline cover, sit back there, and not being Devin McCourty, but that type of role, proper free safety. So he would be the guy that I'd like us to get. He's a bit of I think he'd probably still be there in the 3rd or the 4th. I think, to be honest, 1st to 3rd, we have to go offense. But after that, then I obviously definitely be open to it. And guy I don't want, JJ McCarthy.
NFL comparison, Juwan Thornhill, possibly.
Yeah. Good old free safety.
He's a ball hawk as well. Is it 11 career picks? Like that's He's a guy that just roams on the back end and just goes after the ball. I've watched a couple of games that he played for Miami last year, and I was really impressed. I think the combine might ding him a little bit, but if he's there in round 4, I think that would definitely be a consideration. But I think he might go a bit higher than that.
I think he's a strange one. You mentioned his combine there. He has a weird combine, and like his athletic testing's not very good. But when you watch him, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
He plays like somebody who's far more athletic than he tests. So I too would be very willing to kind of take a chance on him in the later rounds.
Even if he's in the 3rd, I would go. Yeah, look, let's see how the draft the board is falling. If you've taken your tackle in the 2nd, we'll say, for example, or you've taken another offensive player, maybe you look and say, look, there's a few guys to the left that could fall to the 4th, and Kitchens is. I don't want to say he's unique or anything like that, but he's the only kind of high-end free safety in the draft. So maybe not the only, but he's the primary one anyway. So that's where I'm going for anyway. And yeah, I'm with DJ. Not that I think JJ McCarthy is useless or anything like that, or he's terrible. He can just be an athletic Mac Jones for somebody else, please. Thanks.
Okay. So just going back to Cameron Kitchens. So in 2023, I'm just going to bring this up here, if I can find it. Here we go. First team All ACC, tied for 6th in the FBS with 5 interceptions, tied for the team lead with 5 pass breakups, started 10 games, 59 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss with 1 sack. He did miss 2 games due to a head and neck injury, but shows promise. He ran a 4.65 of the 40-yard dash, has a vertical jump 35 and a broad jump of 9'2". So athleticism, it's not quite there. Production looks good. I think I'm very hard to see.
Is that as Johnny was saying, his combine was poor, but from everything that everybody says about him in terms of the draft scouts and analysts say that he is absolutely athletic. It's just he tested badly. So he could just been a guy that didn't put enough effort into his pre-combine workout, which is a problem in itself. But
it's his instincts and his anticipation. If you look on his video, if you look on the video for it, across the season especially, he's always sort of preempting what's going to happen, and sometimes he'll get it wrong, and that's part and parcel of being a rookie. But his instincts and his anticipation remind me of what Christian Gonzalez was showing in his reels last year, that he was sort of like getting to the ball just that little bit quicker than the next guy, because he was already anticipating that's where the ball was going. So Cam Kitchens was actually, Carl, and I know I'm just jumping out of order here, but Carl asked for some draft sleepers. Cam Kitchens was on my list of the 3 sleepers, because I think he will drop a bit due to his combine, but it just seems to be that he's really good at preempting where the ball's going to go, and I think that's testing well and showing in his game footage as opposed to his combine footage.
Just a quick one. Cameron Kitchens was from the University of Miami. Didn't the Patriots take one of the Miami coaches and put on our staff now?
We hired a lot of coaches, Carl. A lot of coaches.
Unless someone worked that out later on. Johnny, we'll move on to you. What's the player that you desperately want in this Patriots team, and which one do you desperately want to avoid?
So I try to think about positions in terms of and sort of the area in the draft we might address certain positions, and I as a former wide receiver myself, I'm a big Roman Wilson fan. His tape made me kind of get a little bit excited that guy might be there in the 2nd, potentially 3rd round. I just think this draft is so stacked with receiver talent that I would happily wait until the 2nd round to pick a receiver, and I'd pick one in the 3rd. I'm a big fan of Cam Kitchens, as I said earlier when Luke was talking about him. But if we kind of pick a defensive player before the 4th round, I'll be furious. I think the first 3 rounds minimum should be offense and just getting as many playmakers as possible. I love Roman Wilson, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan from Washington as well. I think any of those 3, Ricky Pearsall, I'd be happy with. Obviously, Lad McConkey, a white slot receiver. Come on. Of course, we're going to love him. He's built for the Patriots. So I think any of those guys in the second round, I'd be very happy with. Patrick Paul, the Houston offensive lineman. There's something just kind of I really love huge offensive linemen that are just kind of nasty.
Little known fact of Patrick Paul. I only saw this on today. He has an 89-inch wingspan. You only see that in basketball players. That is ridiculous.
He's an absolute freak, and I think if we can get someone like that, we just don't have, for me, kind of that, the planet theory of like we do not have enough players that are just freaks. I remember listening to the Patriots Unfiltered last off season or last preseason, and when Christian Gonzalez was on the field, they would talk about like, oh my god, this is what like a premier athletic talent looks like, because we just don't have very many of them. And so somebody like him that is just a physical freak, and there's just not many people in the world built like him, I think it'd be great to have someone like that. In the same kind of vein, Theo Johnson, the Penn State tight end, who's just massive. Like his relative athletic score is like 9.9 something. He's like 6'6", 250, and he runs like a 4.5. And with Penn State, we don't see a lot of what they do because he spends most of the time blocking. But I would love to kind of see what we could get out of somebody like him in the later rounds.
He intrigues me, Johnny. Do you think like he has the potential to do more than what he's shown on tape? Because I think a lot of people are kind of, he's a projection rather than he's like, we're going to use him for what he's done at Penn State, which is blocking. But like, does he have that catching and the ability to get open in his routes rather than just being a physical freak?
I think it's a strange one because he was used kind of weirdly at Penn State in that they didn't. I've got the PFF big board open here, so let me have a quick look. He's just a bit of a freak, and I don't think he's produced yet, which I think leads to kind of, and the way he was used. Penn State are kind of an odd offense in that sense, where I don't think they necessarily always utilize players as well. He's got a massive catch radius, and he's made some really good plays, and he's kind of built for like that inline tight end, like a traditional, just stick him on the end of the line and let's see what he does. I mean, he's not a wonderful run blocker in all fairness, but he's good enough for a modern day tight end. But I'd be happy to kind of shoot a shot on him in the 4th round and just see what we've got, because Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper don't exactly get me excited. But he's got good hands. He's decent with the ball in his hands as well. So like, he's somebody I'd take a risk on if we were in the later rounds.
Okay. What about a player or players you would avoid?
So for me, I've got a few. I don't want to continue the JJ McCarthy slander because it feels that it's personal at this point. But JJ McCarthy and Bo Nix in the 1st round, I don't want anywhere near. If I'm going to draft a QB in the 1st round, he needs to be a game changer. I'm not interested, and I know retrospectively it's wonderful to say, but I remember my daughter was 6 months old at the time, and I was awake for the draft, and we got to 15, and I'm thinking, please don't be Mac Jones, because I really just don't want a QB that is limited talent-wise. I want a QB that is going to be, that his arm pops off the tape and all this kind of thing, so I don't want to go out of that in the 1st round. I really sorry, DJ, but I don't want anything to do with Keon Coleman. He just, like I said earlier, like N'Keal Harry. I don't want a receiver that can't separate in college, because that traditionally doesn't translate very well. And aside from being massive, he has a terrible contested catch rate. He was like 10 out of 30 in college for contested catch rate, which if I've got a guy who can't separate and is massive, I want somebody who can go and steal the ball out the air, and he just doesn't do that very well. Additionally, Kool-Aid McKinstry, I think he's getting too much pop in the 1st round. I think
he's going back end. He's going back end 1st round. I don't think Kool-Aid McKinstry's going to go anywhere close to 2nd. I don't think.
With his lack of deep speed and his just foot injury, and I don't really. Nick Saban loves man coverage, and he plays man coverage a lot at Alabama, and he didn't with the corners that he had last year, and that worries me because they're usually a corner factory. And if he likes man coverage and he's not willing to run it, why? And is it because his corners aren't that good?
Yeah.
And that's what concerns me.
100%. That's exactly why.
Yeah. Okay, Nick, what about you?
Excuse me. Oh God. Where? Right. Just picking two names out the first round that I would really love to see. Can't have them both unless we trade down. But I have been in love with JC Latham ever since his combine. He just tested off the charts, and he rose up the big boards of pretty much everybody. He's so lean but big. He can play either side. His mobility is there. He's just everything you want in a tackle. He can play guard, so he would be one that I would love to get in round one. Again, Brian Thomas Jr. From LSU, I really do like him as well. He's probably the fourth best wide receiver in the draft. So he's another one that, again, if you change your draft order and you pick up more, I don't know whether he'd be someone to recruit. But if I'm picking lower down, if I'm picking someone in the later rounds, sort of 2, end of 2, beginning of 3, the two names I would love to see on the Patriots are Ruka and Roger Rosengarten. Because if you've got names like Rosengarten and a then you deserve some fair play. So, Aurora's a defensive tackle and Rosengarten's a offensive tackle, and both of them, they tested well, they combined well. Their footage looks stock. It looks sort of average. They don't
Clemson, isn't
he? Who?
Aurora, yeah, he's a Clemson guy.
He might be.
He is, yeah.
They don't shine. They don't stick out, but they don't look out of their depth either. So yeah, and picking players I don't want, and I'm not going to say JJ. I'm going to say the other guy. I don't want Drake May. I really don't. I'm sorry, boys. Wow. I don't want him. I think
why?
Fontenay...
What's your explanation why?
Can we clip this for next year so we can post back on you?
Clip it, please. Clip it. I'm on my hill. I don't mind.
You died on the hill on the DeAndre Hopkins one. Let's not do another hill because
you're already buried on that.
I'm still scooping the crap off the last one. I don't need to do.
I don't want Drake May. I don't want Drake May because I said this last week that if I'm comparing Drake May to food, he's a bowl of rice. He's so bland. He doesn't give me any confidence. His footwork's terrible. He can't hit the long ball unless he's warmed up. Did
you see his O-line in North Carolina? Did you see his wide receiving core in North Carolina? Rubbish, and they made him look.
The offensive line was terrible, and he had one receiver that's pretty, and he had one good receiver, and he's probably going to end up going in the 4th round in Des Walker. Let's not just batter.
And the kid is 21.
I'm just saying, this is my opinion.
Just let Nick finish. To be fair, we all had our gripes. Let Nick finish.
From what I've seen, from what I've watched, he does not inspire me with great confidence, and that's my personal opinion. I can't say any more than what I've already said. He is not now. Caleb Williams, yes, great, brilliant. Jaden Daniels, yes, brilliant. Not one of those two. See ya. I'm going further down the line. Would you like to go in front of me? Thank you. I don't want him. So the other guys that I don't want, Xavier Worthy, yes, he's fast, but what else has he got? We've seen fast receivers. They don't inspire me with great confidence. And the
I
two that
watched him
later,
today, funny enough, actually, Nick. I watched him today, and I feel exactly the same way.
He's going to go
I have
back
to
end of
say.
the first round anyway. He's going to go back end of the first round.
I think he could go back end of 2.
I think Buffalo take him. I think Buffalo might get desperate, but anyway, I digress.
I think he needs a specific role. He needs to have an offense designed, something like Miami's, where they can build something around him and protect him from what he can't do, which is get off press coverage.
Be like Tyreek Hill Part 2.
Basically, well, yeah.
Just put him in motion and have him moving before the ball snapped.
Yeah.
Okay. My favorite 2 that I really, really want. I'm only now if we're stuck at round, it's going to be in round 2, so we'll only get one or the other. So one of them is wide receiver Lab McConkey. I've already said that his comparison is Cooper Kupp. Every route he runs is absolutely spot on, bar a dig route. The rest of the routes he runs is he's one of those polished receivers. But the only reason why he falls into the second round is because he has got a bit of an injury history. But if managed well, this kid could literally explode off the charts. And the other one for me is Johnny's already beaten me to the punch on this one, and that's Patrick Paul, the tackle at 89-inch wingspan. This guy's just an absolute block, an absolute unit, and I would absolutely love to have him. And as I said, the 2 team players I don't want, I've banged on the drum to the back end of season 1 of this podcast about not having JJ McCarthy because I am a Michigan Wolverines fan. I watched all of Michigan Wolverines for like the last 7 to 8 years. When JJ McCarthy came along, all it basically was running the ball and playing hard-nosed defense. This was Jim Harbaugh's way of playing football. It was boring. It was dull to watch. And in that championship game, it was all Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. 250 yards on the ground, and I think it was 140 yards throwing that JJ McCarthy did. I think it was just under 60% completion of his passes.
But
here's a game.
In all fairness, sorry, I was going to say is, in all fairness, when he was asked to throw the ball, he did. His accuracy was good. He kept hitting his receivers. Yes, he was asked to run. Yes, the team ran the ball a lot, and that's not the fault of the quarterback. When he was asked to do his job, he did his job.
Cool. But how many times did he get called upon to actually lead a game-winning drive?
I think the word that's been banded around with JJ McCarthy is facilitator. A lot of people have been saying that he's very much a facilitator. And I think when I watch him, I just see Alex Smith, someone who's probably going to come into the league, be okay. You know, you might win 9 games a season with him, but I don't think he's ever going to have the capability to you know, as you said, Carl, lead big game-winning drives or lead the teams deep into the playoffs off his own back.
He's a 10 to 15 guy.
Yeah. He's middle of the road. Yeah, he's an Alex Smith.
He's middle of the road, but I think what elevated his stock is basically him winning a national championship. That's kind of why it's elevated his stock to the way it is. But I don't want him anywhere near. And yeah, the other one is wide receiver Keon Coleman. I don't want him. He is in the Kill Harry 2.0. I want absolutely nothing to do with the guy. And if we did draft him, Elliot Wolf deserves to be fired. Okay, so okay, so let's move on now. So let's go into diamonds in the rough. Okay, so
do I not get mine or?
Oh, sorry, Kieran. My apologies.
No,
I missed the. I thought we were going anti-clockwise. I apologize for that. Go on,
that's
mate.
right. Okay, so yeah, look, I agree with you, Carl, on Lab McConkey. I absolutely love him. I think he's going to be 100-catch, 1,000-yard receiver for wherever he ends up. I do think he is very, very similar to Cooper Kupp. His footwork and route running is exceptional, and that it translates very well to the NFL. Really like him. I'm really big on Adonai Mitchell as well from Texas. Really like him. I think he's way better than Worthy. If I'm taking a Texas receiver, I'm taking Adonai. I really like Sua Matea, the tackle from BYU. I mentioned him last week. He's massive. Yeah. He's athletic. He's a project, but He obviously started at Oregon, transferred to BYU, played right tackle for the first season, all the games, and then played on the left just this year and played really well. So he's someone that could be a swing tackle to start with, but then you can develop into your long-term starter at left tackle. And then a couple of other guys I really like. I said in the green room beforehand, I fell in love with a receiver earlier today, and that receiver is Xavier Legette from South Carolina. I think we are looking at potentially the next AJ Brown. Very similar stylistically. Huge, big body, rapid, strong. Just a guy I think is going to be a really good X receiver at the next level. And then we've not really touched on running backs today. So a guy that I really like, probably around about the 4th round range. Obviously, we all remember a few years ago how good Dion Lewis was for us. And there is a guy in the draft who I think is an absolute carbon copy of him. And that's Bucky Irving from Oregon, who I just think is so fun to watch. So I really, really like him. And in terms of guys to avoid, I'm also going to say Keon Coleman, but also Troy Franklin. Just reminds me too much of Tyquan Thornton. Said it last week. I don't want anything to do with these rail thin deep threats anymore. They don't translate well to the league. I think you've got to have some size. And another one I don't like, I'm going to go to running back again. I cannot believe for the life of me why Jonathan Brooks is ranked as the RB1 in so many different rankings.
Oh, leave my cousin alone. Well, leave my cousin alone.
I mean, I watched him. He's just a glider. Like, he's got no explosiveness. His contact balance is missing. He ain't got any power, and he's coming off an ACL. And he's really only had 1 year. Like, you think of before, Texas had Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson, who both got drafted last year. So you've gone from being the 3rd string and not really done an awful lot this year. So for me, I think it's ludicrous that he's the RB1 in some people's boards. I'd have him 4th or 5th at the highest. So, that's me.
Okay, no problems at all. I will say this: I don't think running back is going to be on our minds because it just feels like we've got Ramondre Stevens who could be the cowbell, and you obviously now got Antonio Gibson that has come in as well.
Yeah, I think Gibson coming and kind of
stops
us from getting Bucky Irving.
I don't think running back will be on our minds, but I think when it reaches the undrafted free agent, the undrafted rookies, then there will be running backs on there that you could potentially take. One of them is Frank Gore's son.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to get drafted. I think he's going to be undrafted. So maybe, but probably the 49ers will tap him up because feelings. Anyway.
Just before we get into the next bit, what do you guys, obviously I said about Xavier Legette. Where are you guys on Xavier Legette? Because I just loved watching his tape.
He makes me a little nervous.
Oh.
Sorry, go on, Carl.
Johnny.
Go on,
Johnny.
you go.
No, go on, you go.
No, it's just like PFF grading wise, he was like 50s in his first 2 seasons, and then he's jumped to like an 85. And I don't know. There's something an older prospect, like there's something about, almost feels like bullying when you've got a 23, 24-year-old picking on 18, 19-year-old lads in college. But it just kind of makes me feel a bit anxious about somebody who breaks out at that position in the way he plays. He's again talking about Keon Coleman not being great in contested catches. Xavier Legette is very good in those scenarios, but that makes me a little bit anxious as to why wasn't he like that before. Obviously, I don't really know why and have the information, but I'm sure teams will do the digging on that. But if that would be something that a question I would have with Xavier Legette.
I saw him take, I can't remember what game it was against. I saw it on the tape earlier on, but he kind of took like an inside slant, and you think he's going to get like double teamed, and he just powers through the safety in the corner and then just puts the jets on. And I was like, oh my word. Like, for a guy who looks quite bulky, you wouldn't expect him to have that just top end speed to just race away from the DBs. So I just really like him. But
he's got that high speed combo.
If he's there at 34, and you don't want to take the tackle, you rather go late on in the 3rd round, then you take Xavier Legette, then you take him. But then because there's going to be so many receivers on the board, people are going to get very, very high rate and go, oh, you should have taken this receiver, We can't really.
So many depth for what
there's so much in depth, okay, but you can't. study it until after like 2 or 3 years and realize where they've gone, you know. But anyhow, diamonds in the rough. Now, obviously, Johnny spoke about Cam Kitchens, and obviously so did Luke as well, because that's going to be around about third, maybe fourth round. But I want to go into the latter rounds. And Johnny, you've just stolen my thunder there. So I'll tell you what, we'll go to you first, because obviously you've just given the name off there. Tight end. Theo Johnson out of Penn State. I love this dude, but he's a tight end that we need. That's not a pass catcher. He is a pass catcher, but he's more of a guy you want in the trenches.
Yeah, I mentioned him earlier in the players that kind of get me excited. I think he's somebody that, later rounds for me, potentially pad out special teams. But for me, it's let's take flyers on guys that are just freaks. So I think he's has the potential and the tools to be great. Whether he is or isn't, I don't know. I don't know what's going on else with him. But there's another guy that I do quite like that I think may go higher than that, but I think he's phenomenal. He's just a nut job. Is Jermaine Burton. His tape I think is excellent, but he's an absolute head case. And culturally, whether he would be a good fit for a Patriots locker room that's kind of restarting, I don't know. But he's a player that intrigues me because I really want to like him when I watch his tape, and I really do. I just don't know whether I'd want to touch him with a barge pole. But if you were in the later rounds and there's an opportunity to take someone like Jermaine Burton, I would jump at that and take a flyer on him. But yeah, Theo Johnson's also a tremendous athlete that I think would be worth the risk.
Okay, Luke, what about you? What are your gems for like the real latter rounds that could come in and really cause to ruffle some feathers?
Somebody that I wouldn't mind us taking a look at is Jalen Coker from Holy Cross. This is your D3 guy. You'd probably be there in the 6th or the 7th. Just production all the time, and again, from what I've heard, I'm not going to sit here and say I've watched all the tape. I haven't watched any tape. He's dominated, like at Division 3. If you're going into the NFL, you need to be dominant at that level and be a cut above everybody that you're playing, and he is. So if you can get a guy like that, I mean, he's 6'3", 215, and he's nearly 1,000 yards in his last 2 years, 15 touchdowns in 23, 11 in 22. That's the type of dominance that you want, 17 and 18 yards per catch. Like for a guy that size, that's what you're looking for. The other one, again, and this is more just take a flyer on him late. If he's sitting there sixth-ish, 7th-ish, if he's gone earlier, don't want him. Jordan Travis from Florida State. He's had the injury problems, but just give him. He's not to be your starting quarterback, or even have designs on being the starting quarterback at some point. This is just to be a serviceable backup that, just a bit, maybe just some talent just to throw out there.
Okay.
It's not me saying you could get Jordan Travis in the 6th and he'll be your starting QB in 3 years, because that never ever happens. So yeah, they're my two.
Okay. DJ, what about you?
So I had originally one name on the board, but I think he'll go in the third day, and that's if he's still there, I think he will help in regards to like the special teams and that. It's Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's son. I still think he like I say, if he's there, just take a punt on him and take him like that 6th or the 5th. My interesting one is, I don't know how much he's going to slip down the draft, but if he's around 4, 5, I'll take him, and that's Vontae Sweat.
Defensive
I think
tackle?
he's got some.
No.
Yeah,
Is that defensive
I think
tackle
he's
or
got
tight
some
end?
issues. Defensive tackle.
Defensive tackle.
He's got some
has
issues.
No.
Yeah, but if he's there, like I say, the 4th or the 5th, if you can work it out,
There's
you
probably a reason why he's dropped to the 4th and the 5th, and it's been very, very well documented. So I would avoid that at all costs, especially when we are a rebuilding franchise. If we still have Belichick and Brady in the building, I think, yeah, bring him in. He might be able to, we might be able to get a tune out of him.
22. I mean, I don't know how he can be that bad, but as in like mentally.
Have you seen society nowadays?
We've just got rid of Trent Brown. And we've reduced the wage bill on Doritos. We do not need to increase the wage bill on Doritos to cover Devondre's Sweat arrival.
And ultimately, players like that, as talented as he is, he's going to play a very specific role, and that is going to be a run stuffer. We signed Watts in free agency. Like, we've had Carl Davis before. You can find these big, bulky nose tackles in many places. So,
and a concern I have with him is he's like 360 pounds. And Texas would quite often choose to play Byron Murphy at nose tackle, who's 290 and is phenomenal in his own right, but is a 3 or 5 tech on any day. But they were playing him because he's that powerful. I think that's also a nod to how good Murphy is. But why are you not playing your 360 nose tackle at nose tackle? And I think his conditioning and general demeanor and attitude and who he is as a person is probably the answer there. But yeah, that is a concern for me. If that's what he's supposed to be, why wasn't he it?
So I got to come clean about something. Devondre Sweat, I don't think is going to be a right fit for New England. However, in one of my pro football mock drafts I did earlier on last night, I took him with my 4th pick. So
that's why I haven't going around 4th.
So I've literally freaking contradicted myself there with that one. It went Tuisi Fawanga, Michael Penix Jr., Ben Sinnott, and then Devondre Sweat.
I sat there last week and I said about how this guy started drinking at 11:30 in the morning and got done on a DUI at 2:30 in the afternoon. How hammered do you have to be at 2:30 in the afternoon when you've started drinking at 11:30 in the morning, when you know that probably one of the biggest days of your life is coming up? Come on.
Probably a bottle of Jack Daniels every half hour, probably, if he did it in a 30-minute sesh. Anyhow, Kieran, we'll move on to you. Who are your diamonds in the rough going into this draft? We're looking at possibly 4th round all the way to the 7th, because it's always a bit of a mismatch.
Yeah, I'm not too sure where to place this particular guy, but I quite like Javon Baker from UCF. I think he's got a really good skill set, nice blend of size and speed. I couldn't find too much wrong with him when I watched him. Not sure where he's going to go. Maybe the 3rd, maybe the 4th. But I think he could be a nice little mid-round ad. And then the other ones that got me thinking, and because I've still got so much to go through in terms of players still to watch, but I wonder whether there's going to be some late round guys from that Michigan team that are going to end up being good contributors. You've got Keegan and Zinter on the offensive line, but then Braden McGregor just reminds me so much of Chris Long, and I just kind of think that in the past we've kind of valued those high motor guys that have got just nothing but effort, that just grind and just have that grit about them. Dietrich Wise, he's one of them. And obviously we had Chris Long in the Super Bowl. So yeah, maybe Braden McGregor, and then just Michigan just churn out these linemen, as do programs like Wisconsin and whatnot. But I just feel like you might get a starting caliber O lineman out of them too as well.
I think Chris Jenkins is another Michigan player that I think is a sneaky, very good player in not a particularly coveted role, but I think somebody who's a bit nasty and would kind of fit the Patriots scheme.
Yeah, okay. Nick, you're last up. What about you? Who's your diamonds in the rough?
If I'm going later in rounds, I'm going to have to go with two members of my Fighting Irish.
Here we go.
On the defensive side of the ball, cornerback Cam Hart. He's quick. He's not sticking out as someone absolutely blowing the doors off everything, but you know, he does seem to look like he can get the job done. And if I can find my man, my offensive tackle would be Blake Fisher, who was spent a year at right tackle as Joe Alt had the left tackle spot, and protected Sam Hart. Joe Alt had the blind side, and Blake Fisher had the right side, and allowed Sam Hartman the time he needed on the ball. He played an apps. I don't know if you remember when Notre Dame beat USC and Caleb Williams was crying in the stands because he couldn't win a game or whatever. Blake Fisher had an absolute monster game that day. So too late picks. But yeah, whether the Patriots pick either of them, don't know. But they're two that sticking me as they could be benefactors late on.
I thought you were going to say JD Bertrand when you said the defensive side of the ball.
No, I do like Cammy. It's just that guy that goes. He seemed to go around doing his job and didn't do it with any no fireworks, no bells and whistles. He just got the job done. A typical. I know that Belichick's not there, but a typical Belichick player. Know your role, do your job, get the job done, and he did that. So we'll see.
So my two. I'm not going. First, I'll go to the defensive side of the ball because I picked this one second to last on my mock draft. And this particular person, I look at our edge rushers. Okay, you got Dietrich Weiss Jr., Josh Ucho's only on a 1-year contract. We don't know how long Matt Judon is still going to be here for. We're going to need some reinforcements on that position. On the latter rounds, I have taken Javon Solomon, edge out of Troy. I don't know. I haven't seen any videotape on him, but it just seems like when you fill all your needs that you need at quarterback, tackle, receiver, tight end, and corner, then you can start using the picks for we need to replace this one at some point, replace this player at some point. And then the other player, but we already have a running back in the NFL called Christian McCaffrey. I would like to see how this Luke McCaffrey actually gets on, and he can fall in the latter rounds as well. So if we were to just drop off a little bit more into receiver and take Luke McCaffrey, then that'd be interesting. But those are my two gems I've got. We're slowly running out of time, guys. So we've got one more segment to do before we get on out of here. So obviously the Patriots have a history and a habit of making draft picks which boggles the mind in more ways than another. But because we're running out of time, I did ask you to do 3 picks. I'm only going to choose one of the picks that you've chosen. What was one of the worst picks you ever saw New England do? It just doesn't have to be from last year's draft. It could be in their entire history.
Please, sir. Can I go first, please, sir?
Go on, Nick.
We could have had Lamar Jackson. But instead we went for an absolute bum. A bum. Please, sir, can I pick him? N'Keal Harry. What a bum.
The things like me and Nick agree and disagree over many things, but this is the one that I love you for the most.
But they were in separate draft classes, though.
You're thinking of Sony Michel.
Sony Michel.
Sony Michel or Isaiah Wynn. It was one of two.
Yeah. Isaiah Wynn was earlier.
Same draft.
But Harry, we could have had Deebo Samuel, we could have had DK Metcalf, could have AJ Brown.
No, stop. PTSD's coming back. Stop right there.
I think, to be fair, like Deebo and AJ were kind of like diamonds in the rough that succeeded. I think what annoys me so much about the Sony Michel pick that Nick was talking about there is that we had an aging Tom Brady. Lamar Jackson sat there. and I think we traded back up, didn't we, for him, to
It's
go
like a
and
win.
get a low value position in running back and especially with an aging Tom Brady, a QB, even if we just take a QB on a cost control contract to sit there and let him develop, even if we used him with Tom Brady as a gadget player, I just, that for me was one of the more frustrating picks.
But you can't have that. You can't have that pick because obviously Nick has had it. So you're going to choose
I just want to say
something.
that the process for me is what was bad there, and that's what annoys me.
There was no process. It was
just
befuddling.
that as well. I just don't want it's not a specific pick, but I do not want a second round corner, and I do not want a defensive tackle with knee injuries. Malcolm Brown and Dominic Easley can go and
Easily
have knee injuries somewhere else. Razai Dowling, all those corners that we drafted in the second round that we reached massively for.
Duke Dawson.
Yes, Duke Dawson, yeah. Cyrus Jones. And honestly, just anybody who, just because Belichick's mate coached them in college, doesn't mean we have to draft them. So yeah, that I think I'm looking forward to potentially not having to massively reach for one of Belichick's bosom buddies' prospects.
I've got wide receiver. Don't know if you remember Aaron Dobson.
Oh God.
Yeah.
He was a second round, I think, in 2012 or 2013, one of the two.
2013.
Yeah. Mental. Could have had like Travis Kelce, I think, in the third or in the fourth.
Nobody thought Travis Kelce was going to be Travis Kelce. So.
My days.
It's the curse of the New England number 17, isn't it? At that point.
Kieran, what about you?
Well, there's been so many, hasn't there? We could the second round has been horrendous to us over the last few years. But I think we all remember. I'm going to go to the second round. I'm just going to bring up this name because I think we can all remember just how bad he was, and that is Jordan Richards. I mean, that guy he couldn't cover his own bed. He was absolutely horrendous. So, yeah.
Okay.
So second round pick. God, yeah. Jordan Richards. Bloody hell.
Did he not get traded, then get released, and we signed him back or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that pales into comparison to another receiver. But we also took in the second round. But I've got to go all the way back to 2006. Chad Jackson.
Kick returner.
He was, everything was in place for Jackson to be a breakout star in New England. 6'1", 223 pounder. Florida star under Belichick Powell, Urban Meyer. The less about that, the better. He had great footwork and agility and excellent straight line speed. The Patriots traded second and third round pick to the Packers to go up and get him. In 14 NFL regular season starts with the Patriots, the first 6 overall choice had 13 catches for 152 yards. That makes it N'Keal Harry an all-pro.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty much one of the worst selections we've ever done. But there are plenty. We could batter the dead horse on this all day all night long.
It says a lot when our success in the latter rounds has been so much better, that the hit rate on players like in the latter rounds has been so much more successful than those taken in days 1 and 2. I mean, like, what was Trey Flowers, like a 4th round pick, and he was like one of our best defensive ends of the last 5-10 years.
I love Trey Flowers.
Yeah, me too. One of my favorites.
That's why Nick's worried at getting May at 3.
Can I do a speed run, Carl?
Go on.
Top 3 picks.
Go on.
That I think were ass. Cole Strange, Saquon Thornton, Mac Jones, Ronnie Perkins, Devin Asiasi, Dalton Keene, N'Keal Harry, Joanne Williams, Yodny Kajust, Helta Froholt, Isaiah Wynn, Dawson, Rivers, Garcia. These are all third round picks and above, bar Froholt and Rohrwasser. Derek Rivers, Antonio Garcia never actually played a game for the Patriots. He was a third round pick. Cyrus Jones, Vincent Valentine, Gino Grissom, Josh Boyce, 4th round pick, Tavon Wilson, Jake Beckett, third round pick, Tavon Wilson, second round pick, only played special teams. Ryan Mallett, we took him in the third. He wasn't even our backup. He was third string, I think, for most of his time here. Jermaine Cunningham, Taylor Price. Don't think he ever played a game for us. Third round pick. Ron Brace, defensive tackle. Darius Butler ended up having a good career, but not with New England. Brandon Tate, another kick returner. Tyrone McKenzie I think he tore his ACL in minicamp. Never actually played a game for the Patriots. Third round pick. Terrence Wheatley, second round pick. Sean Crable. Kevin O'Connell, Coach Kevin O'Connell, third round pick. Brandon Merriweather, Lawrence Maroney. I know they were serviceable, but they were first round picks. Chad Jackson was mentioned. David Thomas, tight end. Marquise Hill, second round pick. Gus Scott, Bethel Johnson, Rohan Davey, who we took in 2002 in the fourth round. Why? We had, like, Tom Brady was already going. Like, you had backups in there. Brock Williams, Coach Adrian Clem, and J.R. Redmond.
Raw Wasser makes me laugh because I totally forgot the fact we drafted like a Nazi kicker.
Yeah, I know.
Just for fun. That was, yeah.
And that what annoyed me is that came out pre-draft, and we still drafted him, didn't we? And he was terrible, and he wasn't good. Like, he wasn't even good in college. I don't know why.
I think it's even going to set up now. Now we've got obviously a different, somewhat different front office. We're either going to have an absolute stonking draft, or it's just going to be like in the same mold as that horrendous.
Same shit, different year.
Like, we're going to draft Spencer Rattler at number 3 overall. Keon Coleman at wide receiver, and yeah.
But I think those picks
I just hope they get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the picks that we just read out are exactly why we're in the position we're in, because those middle rounds are where you build the depth in your roster, and we just haven't done that for a decade.
And when you read them out like that as well, like, how did we win like 3 Super Bowls post 2014 when we're drafted that badly?
Tom Brady.
Okay, and on that note, we need to get on out of here. Lads, it's been an absolute tremendous show. Well done to Johnny and Kieran for your second episode here. I hope you've enjoyed it. Obviously to the main panel as well, DJ, Luke and Nick, as always, absolutely fantastic. Thank you to everyone who's been watching. Thank you to everyone who's been listening on Spotify. Please make sure you smash the like button on your way out. You hit the subscribe button while you're at it. You tell all your friends. You follow us on all our social media platforms. You follow us on Spotify, and also follow us on our brand new network, the Sports Social Network. They're doing brilliant things for us, so big up to them. We will be back next week, because next week, all 6 of us will be put in the mastermind hot seat. Mock draft, the real final mock draft before the draft in next Thursday. But for now, we're getting on out of it. Go on, Nick.
Carl, just before you finish, next Wednesday, me and Luke have got a special pod that we'll be running. We're going to be comparing building the inside against building the outside. So I'll be doing building from the outside in. Luke will be doing building from the inside out, and it'll all be the pros and cons and what's best. And yeah, so we're just going to have some fun for a quick sort of 45, 50 minutes. And we'll see what we can come up with.
And is that next Wednesday? That's
next Wednesday.
Tomorrow coming up? It's next Wednesday. So we'll have 2 shows next Wednesday. We'll have our usual podcast, and then we'll have a one-off special with Nick and Luke next Wednesday as well. Thank you to everyone who's been watching. This has been the Patriots Touchback Podcast. Go Patriots. Let's go.
Laters.